Hi, I'm Jeff Walters, and welcome to The Minutes. And thanks for listening today. It's great to have you along on The Minutes for the week of November the 4th, 2024. This is a City of Thunder Bay podcast. The Minutes takes a look at what happened at Thunder Bay City Council this past week. You can find The Minutes wherever you get your podcasts, including our YouTube channel and our website, thunderbay.ca/The Minutes. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening at City Hall, just hit that subscribe button. On this episode, we'll have a rundown of what happened at this week's City Council meeting and an interview with Keri Greaves, the Commissioner of Corporate Services and City Treasurer. The 2025 capital budget was at Council on Monday night, and we'll hear all about it. But first, City Council got its annual update from the city's Climate Adaptation Coordinator. The report, which was just for information, highlighted what has been done over the past year to help the city become more resilient to the impact of climate change. Over the past year, the city has considered the climate impact from more of its decisions, assessed threats to the community from climate change, enhanced rain gardens and tree planting along with low-impact developments that hold stormwater, and applied for additional grants to help with the cost of climate adaptation. The report says that climate change will increase the city's infrastructure deficit by decreasing the lifespan of items and increasing the need for major repairs and replacement. Locally, the report says that there were impacts this past winter due to climate change on events hosted by the city. That includes the Ontario Winter Games and the Sleeping Giant Loppet, along with the designation as a Lyme disease risk area due to warming winters and increasing days with 30-degree heat in the summer. Some of the behind-the-scenes work includes planting more than 700 trees, habitat work at the Pool 6 area, a new stormwater management system at the Centennial Conservatory, and partnerships to help reduce water runoff across the city. The city uses 17 indicators to determine how well the city is adapting to the changing climate. Data from last year is the 8th time that this information has been collected. It shows that there is a higher amount of carbon dioxide in the air, and it's continually increased in the past 8 years and is much higher than pre-industrial levels. As well, the city looks at the number of flood watches and warnings issued, along with the number of weeks of low water levels. There were 22 weeks of low water in 2023. The city also tracks what it spends on climate adaptation, how many corporate reports include climate adaptation measures, and the number of climate adaptation sessions for city staff, the number of evacuees hosted due to emergency events, number of times fire rescue staff are needed to respond to weather events, and a number of bypasses at the water pollution control plant are also tracked. There was only one bypass in 2023, which did receive some level of treatment before being discharged. The report notes that the area of the city that has impervious areas where water cannot flow, and the amount of the city with a tree canopy has remained the same for 7 years. The number of low-impact development stormwater sites has increased. Council will receive another report on climate resiliency next year. Council approved a contract to rent up to 2 bulldozers with an operator for a year, with an option to renew for another 4 one-year terms. The $500,000 contract will go to Allen Equipment Contracting. The bulldozers are used at the landfill, which spread and level garbage at the facility on Maple Ward Road. The bulldozers also spread soil over the garbage to make sure that the city is in compliance with its operating permit from the province. The units are also used to compact roads and maintain roads and plow snow at the active tipping faces. A financial analysis prior to the request for tender determined that it was better to contract the service out than to bring it in-house with city staff. Whether you want to generate some rental income, age in place in your own home, support a family member while offering them the independence of their own suite, or just to increase the value of your home, an additional dwelling unit might be for you. And right now, the City of Thunder Bay is offering grants through the Housing Accelerator Fund to support the creation of additional units in urban neighborhoods. This includes units created through apartments, additions, and accessory buildings like backyard homes. Eligible homeowners, they can apply for grants, and they can receive up to $20,000 per additional unit, with more grants available to help with eligible servicing and application costs. You can learn more and apply today by visiting buildthunderbay.ca. Council got its first look at the 2025 capital budget on Monday night, months earlier than normal. After a notice of motion was approved by Council, administration changed the capital budget calendar, bringing the budget to Council prior to the new fiscal year. The change is expected to save the city some money and get better scheduling for capital projects. The capital budget is at $161.8 million this year. This is a 57% growth compared to the previous year, amounting to $58.5 million. The increase is because of several major provincial and federal investments, including spending on the Housing Accelerator Fund, Housing Enabling Water System Fund projects, Building Faster Fund, the Indoor Turf Facility, and Temporary Village. These projects combined have a value of $49 million. The capital budget has a third of its spending funded from grants, about 14% from the municipal tax levy, about a quarter from debentures, and another third from reserve and reserve funds. In August of this year, Council approved a recommendation for a tax increase of no more than 3.8% before growth for both operating and capital budgets. Council also approved a strategy where spending on new capital would be no more than 20% of the capital budget, with the remainder going to maintaining existing assets. This year, the budget spending is broken down into a service-based budget instead of a corporate format. The idea is to make it easier to understand where the city is spending the capital budget and how infrastructure and services are impacted by that spending. The report notes that while the tax-based contribution to the capital budget will go up by 3.8%, there is also additional money going in with the retirement of the Homes for the Aged debenture. Instead of decreasing the tax rate, this money will now get directed to the capital budget and General Capital Reserve Fund. The report says this is a prudent and temporary measure to increase the amount of infrastructure spending without varying tax levels. In broad terms, about $14 million will get spent on transportation services like roads and fleet, another $4 million on bridges and culverts, $2.8 million on stormwater, $2.6 million on sidewalks, $1.8 million on traffic signals, and about $1 million on street lighting. $21 million will be spent on public works projects like fixing roads and installing new sewer and water lines at the same time. This work will mainly take place in the Central Avenue area, and it's spanning Empire Avenue to the west, along with work on North High Street, Cumberland Street, Leith Street, Simpson Street, Lucci Court, Pacific Avenue, Dufferin Street, Marlborough Street, and Yonge Street. About $10 million will be spent on water works, including upgrades and replacements at the Bear Point plant and at pumping stations, with another $13.5 million being spent on wastewater. About $2.1 million is slated for the solid waste and recycling facilities, including upgrading the hazardous waste depot and improvements to handle the upcoming green bin program, which includes changes to the fleet and autocar trucks, along with work at the Mapleward Road facility. About $3.1 million will be spent at the landfill on capping the west cell and gas collection. Fire and rescue requires $800,000, with more than a third of that being set aside for a new aerial ladder truck, which will be purchased in 3 years. Thunder Bay Police need $2.9 million, mainly for equipment upgrades. Parks and Open Spaces requires about $7.7 million for various upgrades, including the Chippewa Park carousel enclosure and a display for the James Whalen tugboat. About $2 million will be spent to upgrade the festival area at Marina Park. As well, municipal parking services will need to spend about $2.4 million, with just about half of that on repairs to the Victoriaville Parkade. About $900,000 will go to security and safety upgrades at both city-owned parkades. One big area of the capital budget is for arenas, stadias, and aquatics. This area has a proposed capital budget of $39.3 million, of which $32 million is the indoor turf facility. This is 75% of the project's cost and includes the expected construction cost for 2025. The Thunder Bay Public Library will spend about $1 million on capital projects, with more than half of them going to building maintenance and repair, along with the elevator work at the Waverley branch. Just over $12 million will be spent at transit, with about half of that being used to upgrade the Fort William Garage for fleet electrification, along with a new entrance on High Street. The other half will be used to purchase electric buses. About $11 million will be spent on housing projects, with $5 million going toward the temporary village. The remaining amount will help encourage more housing get built in the city. Superior North EMS will spend about $2.2 million, most of which is on 5 new ambulances. The city will spend about $2.7 million on various capital corporate projects, including a $1.4 million expansion to the archives building. Looking ahead, the city projects it will decrease its capital spending to about $85 million in 2026. Most of that is because of the indoor turf facility and capital costs for the temporary village being incurred in 2025. Council will debate and look at passing the 2025 capital budget on November the 25th. And finally, Council got an update on Monday night on the Affordable Access to Recreation and Transit program. A 3-year pilot project was started in July of 2023. The program, administered by the Lakehead Social Planning Council, was geared to adults in low-income households. 109 people were supported through the program in its first year. They were given a credit for the city's recreation and culture programs or discounted monthly transit pass through the same program and application. Feedback from people in the program noted they were able to use their savings for more basic needs like food and housing and have a better quality of life. Other feedback said the program's threshold for income should be raised. The program was approved by Council in 2022 and allows participants to spend less on transportation and recreation and improve their well-being by being able to participate in more community activities. The monthly bus pass is discounted for users by 50%, while those who get the programming credit receive up to $350 for admission to city recreation facilities, as well as coupons and memberships. A total of 183 people applied for the program, of which 109 were deemed eligible. 40 people received recreation and culture credits, 22 had discounted transit passes, and 47 got both. This year, the city says it will raise the income threshold to the low-income cutoff figure plus 20%. It's the same threshold used as Pro Kids for children's rec and culture funding. The increase in the income is because the program's participation rate was not maximized. Nearly 3/4 of the recreation and culture credits were used for memberships at the Canada Games Complex or at Churchill and volunteer pools. And that's a wrap as to what happened at Council this week. For more information on anything that happens at Council, please visit our website, thunderbay.ca/council. It's the most encompassing document created by the city, the annual budget. This year, the capital and operating budgets are being separated, and in the case of the capital budget, it's being brought to Council months earlier than normal. It's all because of a new way of explaining budgeting and becoming a bit more efficient in the process. Keri Greaves is the Commissioner of Corporate Services and City Treasurer. He can explain all of these changes about the city budget and where we're heading in the future. Keri, thanks for coming into the Minute Studio today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad that you can make it in because, it's not like the full budget season yet. It's kind of like the preseason, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
From the preseason games. So first of all, a new timeline for the capital budget. This is a couple months ahead of previous years. Why the change?
Oh, well, basically, we recommended the change because we were ready. We did a lot of work over the summer and into the fall to have the capital budget basically calculated. That's typically the way we do things at the city. Is we focus on the capital budget first, and then turn our attention to the operating, and then present both at the same time. The work was done, so we recommended to council that they allow us to approve or to present the capital budget ahead of time, which will allow us to get it approved in the 2024 year, so that we're ready to hit the ground running, January 1st, and get certain projects onto the street. Being the first to market oftentimes will lead to better pricing and more favorable scheduling with contractors. And we were hoping to take advantage of that.
You also have a new look to the capital budget. People don't think of budgets as probably having a look to them, but if you go on the website, thunderbay.ca/budget, it's all there. Why did you change the look and how it's presented?
Yeah, so the budget really it's a communication tool. It helps. It guides administration, but we use the document as a communication tool to council and to the public in general. This year is a lot different, not just in the formatting, but in we've implemented a service-based budgeting concept, which is becoming more and more best practice in municipalities across Ontario and Canada, for that matter. The public is less concerned about the corporate structure, but more on the services that we provide. So we designed this capital budget and the layout to really focus on the services that we provide, and then the projects that support those services.
And can we expect the operating budget to be the same when that comes out in a few months?
That's the goal. The former the current binder that City Council would get and that would be produced and provided to the public was really based on the technology that we have. And so the technology we have produces a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of numbers. for the capital budget, we took that information and recreated the format. I'd like to do the same thing with the operating side. I think it's been so far very well received. I believe it's a much more readable and understandable document than previous, and I think that if we can, apply the same thinking to the operating side, I think that would be beneficial for everybody involved, including council, who has to, flip through hundreds of pages of tables. Right. This allows them to, it's more of a story. They instead of just seeing a table full of numbers and trying to draw your own conclusions, we've tried to, provide some more narrative and explanation as to what those dollars are doing. And how they're impacting the community and what are the benefits of funding these projects.
One thing I want to ask you about, it was on probably the third page, I would say, of the budget, was it talks about how the city can spend money, and it's talking about, we've got money on hand, we've got future cash. Why did you include that information about reserves, cash, and debt? Yeah,
it is just important for the public and everybody, any reader, really, to understand that we are trying to make financially prudent decisions. Like it or not, borrowing debt is a fact of life in municipalities. We use debt strategically, though. We don't borrow for the sake of borrowing. It's done in a ways that will allow us to keep up with the infrastructure as best we can. We know we have an infrastructure deficit. We're not going to solve that overnight. It's going to be part of a longer-term financial strategy, but debt is a part of that. As is saving ahead of time and using those funds to support capital projects. So one of the things we try to do when it comes to budgeting is planning ahead, of course, and knowing that a project. So a good example is the aerial pumper truck. That's in the fire department. That is a very significant purchase, and what this budget does is puts a little bit towards that purchase, and that money is going to go into a reserve fund, and the next year will be the same. And so over a 2 or 3 year span, we'll be able to accumulate enough funding to make that purchase without having a significant spike in taxes.
Fair enough. And yeah, the pumper truck, the aerial ladder truck, I remember seeing it in there going, it is time that we were due for one of those. Yeah. This year's capital budget has some big numbers in it compared to previous years, and it's quite a bit of a larger budget. Mm-hmm. Any insight as to why that is? Yeah, so there's some the previous year's budget was $103 million, which was a significant increase, and at the time was I think the largest capital budget that the city had. This is significantly more. The budget this year includes previous decisions of council. The first being the turf facility, the indoor turf facility. Council has approved that project, has approved financing for that project. The 2025 capital budget includes the implementation of council's direction. Now, we're not to say that the amount that's been included in the budget, which is 3/4 of the project, that we think we'll be able to accomplish in 2025. Not to say that is going to be the final number in the budget. Right. Sorry, it'll be the final number in the budget, but administration is diligently working to try to reduce the overall costs of the project. With the goal is to come in significantly lower than the budget. Right, but we have that amount if it's needed. It's available and budgeted for. Yeah.
So council has approved the financing strategy, which includes significant reserve funds that have been set aside over time, and borrowing up to $20 million or up to $19 million for the entire project. But again, the borrowing part will be the last thing we do. If the project comes in under budget as we hope, then we would borrow less.
Sure. Okay. We touched on kind of the one big item that's in the capital budget. I would say it's probably the largest single line item, if you want to call it that. Any other items that you really want to highlight that kind of I know you're the city treasurer. Not everything excites you, but any things that you went, that's a neat project that we have slated.
Yeah, so we have several projects. We've termed them integrated public works projects, and one of the things that is significantly different than previous years is that we know that the divisions in the city work together to get these projects done, but each project had been budgeted under that specific division. So in an org structure type of presentation, the readers have to go, okay, the road line is here, the water main line is here, the sewer line is here, and you're going through a couple 100-page document trying to find the full cost of a project. So we've grouped projects together and the different components, and we've called them integrated public works projects within the environmental service grouping. And really the reason why is because the stuff underneath the ground is usually what drives the project. Wherever possible, when a water main, wherever possible, the road work is going to follow the need to dig up the pavement and replace the water main and the sewer. So there are significant integrated projects that are really going to position the city well for growth. One being the Interocean development over near Central. We have a Burwood Road expansion, Phase 2. That's also in the budget. And these are, not only are these going to help set the city up for growth opportunities, they're highly leveraged. So the city did receive provincial dollars under the Housing Enabling Water Services Fund, I believe it's called. The HAF project is funding several initiatives that bring Building Faster Fund from the province's funding initiative. So the city has been very successful in obtaining federal and provincial grants and using that towards the infrastructure that the city really needs. The other some of the non-road projects. The Delaney Arena, for instance, it was in the news in the last few months. There's significant renewal that needs to happen at the arena. That's included in the budget here as well.
So lots of things for lots of different groups, right? As we have. You brought this to council on Monday. What was their reaction, knowing that this was the first report? I know they're not debating the contents, but what was the reaction? Yeah,
I think it was positive. It's new, and of course, anything new, there's going to be questions and maybe some apprehension. I'm hopeful that they were satisfied with the responses, and most of the questions were process-driven. Council wants to make sure that they have the information they need to make decisions. They're also interested in make sure that the public has an understanding. Ultimately, council answers to the public, and so really hope that this new presentation is something that the public will read and will be able to better understand. So when they call up their counselor, that they can make a fully formed conversation.
Well, I wish that this format was around years ago when I worked in media and having to sit through those hundreds of pages of spreadsheets and everything else. Yeah, this would have saved me a few hours, but oh well, that's how it goes. Keri, appreciate you coming in today. Yeah. That's Keri Greaves. He is the Commissioner of Corporate Services and City Treasurer, and he joined me here today in the Minutes studio. And a big thanks for listening to the Minutes this week. Of course, if you want more information about City Council, agendas, or minutes, visit thunderbay.ca/council. If you want to listen to past episodes or maybe provide some feedback, visit thunderbay.ca/theminutes. You can also find the Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, you can find us on YouTube and on our website as well. That's thunderbay.ca/theminutes. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening at City Hall, just hit that subscribe button. I'm Jeff Walters. Thanks for listening this week. We'll chat again in 2 weeks. Make it a great day.